Welcome to another deep dive, everybody.
Glad to be back.
Today we're going to be cracking open Chapter 2
Okay.
of Secure and Resilient Software Development.
All right.
And it's going to be a really interesting one, I think, because we're going to be looking at the side of software that most people don't even think about.
Right.
Everyone's always talking about the newest features and all the cool things that apps can do, but we're going to be looking at the stuff that makes those apps last.
Right.
So the qualities that determine if your favorite software is going to be, a champion or a total chump in the long run.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So,
what we often miss is that while features are super important, they're really just one part of the story.
Oh.
It's like, you're judging a car only on its cool gadgets without even thinking about, well, how well does it actually handle in a snowstorm?
Right.
Or is the engine going to fall apart after a year? Software's kind of the same way, Yeah. Those inner strengths, they really do matter.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
The source material starts off
Yes.
with this idea of functional versus non-functional requirements, or NFRs, as I guess.
NFRs,
we're called.
Shorthand.
So for someone who's not a techie,
Right.
what's the difference between those two?
Okay, well, imagine you're ordering a pizza,
Okay.
the toppings that you choose, the size, that's like the functional requirements. That's what you directly experience.
Okay.
But those NFRs, that's like the quality of the ingredients, the oven temperature, the chef's skill.
Okay.
Those things are crucial for, a delicious and satisfying pizza.
Right.
But they're kind of working behind the scenes.
They are, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the NFRs are those things we might not see right away.
Right.
But they make all the difference in whether the software is actually good.
Exactly.
Not just, good looking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? Ignoring those NFRs can lead to some pretty epic fails.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Take, for example, the Oracle Unbreakable campaign.
Okay.
You remember that? Back in the early 2000s.
Vaguely, yeah.
They were so focused on, pushing this idea of unbreakable software.
Right.
But they didn't really address some key NFRs, especially around security.
So they kind of set themselves up for disaster.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because what happened, security vulnerabilities were found.
Right.
And it turned out their unbreakable software was, well, quite breakable.
Okay.
It became a cautionary tale in the industry, a prime example of what happens when you overpromise and underdeliver on those critical non-functional aspects.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Talk about an awkward marketing backfire.
It really was.
It makes you wonder, how do you even test for something like that?
That's a great question.
Like resilience.
There's not a checklist, right?
No.
You can't just go through.
You can't test for every eventuality.
Right.
But what you can do is stress test the software.
Okay.
Pushing a car to its limits on a test track.
Okay, yeah.
You're not trying to break it.
Right.
But you are seeing how it performs under pressure.
Oh, yeah.
You're trying to identify those weak points that might need a little reinforcement.
So you're kind of deliberately pushing the software to its limits to make sure it can handle the real world.
Exactly.
Even if that's totally unpredictable.
Precisely.
Okay.
Let me give you an example from my own experience.
Right.
Years ago, I was involved in testing a system that controlled a critical piece of infrastructure.
Okay.
And in our, regular testing, everything seemed fine.
Right.
But then when we simulated a sudden surge in user activity, the system practically froze up.
No, it just wasn't designed to handle that kind of load.
And if that had happened in real life,
it could have been a disaster.
Yeah.
Luckily, we caught it during testing.
Right.
But it was a stark reminder that resilience isn't something you can just assume.
Right.
You have to deliberately design and test for it.
Okay, so we've established that NFRs are essential.
Yes.
So now I guess we've got to get into the specifics.
Let's do it.
The source material lists
a
bunch of different categories of NFRs.
It does.
Where should we start?
Let's start with availability.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You rely on software constantly.
Oh, do?
Often without even realizing it.
Right.
From banking apps to social media to, navigation systems. What happens when that software suddenly becomes unavailable?
Well, I guess it depends on the app, right?
That does.
Like if my music streaming app goes down, that's annoying.
Sure.
But if my online banking is down, that's a whole different story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why availability is such a critical NFR.
Okay.
Think about a business, right? That relies on online transactions.
Yeah.
Every minute their system's down could be costing them thousands, even millions of dollars.
Right. So it's not just about whether the software is on or off.
Right.
It's about the level of uptime that's required.
Exactly.
And the consequences of downtime.
Precisely. And defining those requirements up front is essential.
Right.
Do you need your system to be available 24/7? Are there certain periods where some downtime's acceptable?
Right.
These are the kinds of questions that developers need to be asking to make sure they build a system that meets those needs.
All right. So availability. Got it.
Okay.
Next up, security.
All right.
I think we all know how important this is.
We do.
But when it comes to building software, what are the core goals of security?
Think of it like a fortress, right? That's protecting valuable treasures.
Okay.
We want to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information inside that fortress.
Gotcha.
Confidentiality means keeping that data secret,
right,
protected from unauthorized access.
Okay.
Passwords, financial records, anything sensitive.
So confidentiality is about who can see the information.
Exactly.
Okay, what about integrity?
Integrity is making sure the information hasn't been tampered with.
Okay.
Think about a medical record, right?
Right.
You want to be confident that the information is accurate.
Yeah.
And that it hasn't been altered without authorization.
So with integrity, we're not just preventing access.
Right.
But also preventing unauthorized changes.
Exactly.
Okay, and then we have availability again.
We do.
But this time in the context of security.
Right.
How's that different?
That's a good question.
From just the general availability?
So general availability is about systems being up and running.
Okay.
Right. Security-related availability is about making sure the system remains operational, even when it's under attack.
Okay.
Think about a denial of service attack.
Okay.
Where they flood a website with traffic.
Right.
And it makes it inaccessible to legitimate users.
Right. So it's like having a security system that keeps intruders out, but also ensures that the people who are supposed to be there can still get in.
Exactly.
Even if someone's like trying to jam the locks or something.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Security-related availability is all about building those systems that can withstand attacks and keep functioning.
Gotcha. So security is...
it's multi-layered.
Yeah, it's not just about building walls, but also making sure the information's accurate and accessible, even under pressure.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next on our NFR tour?
Let's shift gears from fortresses and talk about something a little less glamorous, but equally important. Maintainability.
Okay.
Imagine you buy a new car. But the engine is just a tangled mess of wires and hoses with no clear organization.
Okay.
Trying to fix or upgrade that car would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I can only imagine the mechanic's bill.
Exactly.
So is software like that too?
Absolutely.
Really?
Poorly maintainable software can be a developer's worst nightmare.
Wow.
It makes updates and bug fixes, modifications, incredibly difficult and risky.
Okay.
You change one thing and something completely unrelated breaks.
Oh, no. So what makes software maintainable?
Well,
is it just about having good documentation?
Documentation is part of it.
Okay.
But it goes deeper than that.
Right.
It's about writing clean, well-structured code that's easy to understand and modify. It's about using modular design principles.
Okay.
So changes can be made without triggering that domino effect.
So good maintainability means the software is built in a way that makes it easy to adjust and fix over time without creating a whole new set of problems.
That's it.
That sounds like a win for everyone.
It is. It's about creating software that can adapt and evolve as needs change without becoming this, Frankenstein's monster of patches and workarounds.
Okay. All right. Last but not least.
Okay.
Let's tackle scalability.
Okay.
This seems especially important now when everything is online and everyone's generating tons of data.
Absolutely. Scalability is crucial. Think about, your favorite social media app.
Okay.
Imagine millions of new users joining, sharing photos, sending messages, all at the same time.
Right.
Can the software handle that surge in activity?
Right.
Without crashing?
Yeah. Slowing to a crawl.
So scalability is like having a restaurant kitchen that can effortlessly handle, a small lunch rush. And then, boom, all of a sudden they've got to cater a massive wedding reception without missing a beat.
Exactly.
Wow.
Scalable software can adapt to increasing demands without requiring a complete overhaul. It's about choosing the right architecture, the right databases, the right technologies that can grow seamlessly as needed.
Okay, so we've covered some major NFR categories.
We have.
But before we go any further, I kind of want to rewind a bit.
Great.
The source material talks about good requirements.
Yes, it does.
It's not just about...
It's not a wish list.
Right. It's not just like writing down a wish list for the software.
Exactly. Vague or incomplete requirements are like trying to build a house with a napkin sketch instead of blueprints.
It's just a recipe for disaster. Good requirements need to be smart.
Smart.
Yes. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and traceable.
So that's a good takeaway for our listeners.
It is.
The smart...
mnemonic.
Yeah. It's like a checklist for building those solid requirements.
Exactly.
Okay, but even with a perfect checklist, you still need to gather the right information.
You do.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you go about getting all those details?
That's where involving diverse stakeholders comes in. And not just the end users. Talk to the support staff, the security experts. The system administrators, anyone who has a stake in the software's success.
It's just like conducting a thorough investigation.
It is.
Right? Gathering clues from all the different people who interact with the software.
You got it.
To understand what it really needs.
You'd be surprised what you can learn from the people who are closest to the system's operation. They often have insights that developers or even end users might miss.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, this makes me think about some of the software I use regularly.
Oh, yeah.
And there are definitely times when it feels like the developers didn't consider any NFRs, let alone get input from all these different stakeholders.
That's a problem.
So, listeners, I want to hear from you.
Yes.
What are some NFRs you wish developers would pay more attention to?
Good question.
Head over to our social media and share your thoughts.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your experiences.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing those responses.
Yeah, me too.
It's amazing what you discover when you start looking at software through the lens of these non-functional requirements. It can really change your whole perspective on how software is built and how it impacts your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does. Makes you a more savvy user. But having this awareness is only half the battle, right? How do we make sure these NFRs aren't just forgotten ideas?
How do we make sure that they actually get implemented?
That's the key question.
Yeah, because we can't just expect, developers to magically know what we want.
No.
Especially when it comes to this.
Especially with these less obvious aspects.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we, capture those details?
Well, think of it like creating a blueprint for a building. You wouldn't just tell the construction crew, hey, build something awesome. You would provide detailed plans, specifications, guidelines to ensure that they're building exactly what you envision.
So we need a similar kind of blueprint.
We do.
For software.
Yes.
But how do you even create that?
That's where structured documentation comes in.
Okay.
Using a template can really help make sure that we're capturing all the necessary information for each NFR. For example, you might have fields like the requirement ID, a clear description, the source of the requirement present, testing objectives, even verification methods.
So it's like having a detailed report card.
Exactly.
For each NFR.
It is.
Okay.
It keeps everything organized. Make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Gotcha.
And, those testing objectives and verification methods, those are crucial. How will we know if the software actually meets those NFRs?
Exactly.
What specific tests need to be performed? This all needs to be spelled out and not left to chance.
It's not enough to just say, make it secure. You
need concrete guidelines. And metrics.
Exactly.
And this documentation isn't a one-time thing either. It's a living document. It needs to be revisited, updated as the software evolves. New features, technology changes, even evolving user expectations can all impact those NFRs.
So it's like a constantly evolving roadmap.
That's a great way to put it.
To guide the development and make sure that the software...
Keep it on track.
Stays on track.
Yes.
Okay.
Flexibility and adaptability are key when it comes to managing these NFRs.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about why these things matter to developers.
We have.
But let's shift gears for a second and talk to our listeners.
All right.
Why should you care about all of this?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a techie.
Right.
And the answer is simple. NFRs are the foundation for a positive user experience.
They impact everything.
Yeah.
From how smoothly your apps run to how secure your data is, how easy it is to navigate those apps, how reliable they are over time.
So even if we don't see them, we definitely feel the impact of NFRs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think about the frustration of using a slow, buggy app.
Oh, yeah.
Or the anxiety of a data breach.
Right.
These are often the consequences of poorly addressed NFRs.
Okay.
On the other hand, software that's built with a strong focus on NFRs can make our lives easier, more productive, and more secure.
It's like the difference between driving a well-maintained car that runs smoothly versus driving a clinker that's constantly breaking down.
That's it.
Right.
Perfect analogy.
And leaving you stranded.
And as software becomes even more integrated into our lives.
Yeah. From healthcare to finance to transportation, understand these NFRs will be crucial for all of us, not just developers.
It's about becoming informed users, right?
Yes.
Knowing what to look for.
Yes.
Asking the right questions.
Absolutely.
And demanding better from the technology that we rely on.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to hold software developers accountable and make sure that they're not just focusing on those flashy features, but also on those underlying qualities that make software truly valuable and trustworthy.
It's about recognizing that these NFRs aren't just...
they're not just technical details.
Right. They're not just technical details. They directly impact,
they do.
Our safety, our privacy.
Absolutely.
Our well-being.
Our well-being in a digital age.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why these conversations, they are so important, right?
Yes.
It's to raise awareness about those hidden aspects of software.
Yes.
It's amazing how much we've learned.
I know.
Just by diving into this one chapter.
It's incredible, right?
It's like we've peeked behind the curtain and seen all the gears and levers that make the software world tick.
And that's the power of knowledge, isn't it?
Right.
The more we understand how things work, the more we can appreciate the complexity of building them, right? And that applies to so much more than just software.
Okay. But before we wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway, the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
I would say it's this. Don't just focus on what the software does.
Okay.
Pay attention to how it does it.
Okay.
Look beyond those shiny new features and ask yourself, is this software built to last?
Right.
Is it secure?
Okay.
Is it reliable? Is it easy to use?
Okay.
These are the questions that will lead you to truly great software.
Excellent advice.
Thank you.
It's funny.
What's that?
We spend so much time thinking about the features we want in software, but we rarely stop and consider the qualities that make it,
Right. The stuff that makes it
reliable, secure, enjoyable to use.
Enjoyable, It's like we're so focused on the destination that we totally forget about the road to get there.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Thanks.
Speaking of the road ahead, what are some things that our listeners can do to become more informed software users?
I'd say the first step is just being aware of these NFRs. Next time you're using an app or a website, take a moment to think about those hidden qualities.
Right.
Is it responsive? Does it feel secure?
Okay.
Is it easy to navigate?
Right.
Easy to understand?
To just be a more observant user.
Exactly. And if you encounter problems, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
Reach out to customer support. Search online forums, or even contact the developers directly.
Right.
The more we demand better from the software we use, the more likely they are to prioritize these essential NFRs.
So it's about taking ownership of our digital experiences.
Absolutely.
Recognizing that we have a voice in shaping the future of software.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's a final thought to leave you with.
Right.
The next time you run into a software issue, try to look beyond the surface.
Okay.
Is it just a simple bug? Or could there be a deeper NFR problem?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's like being a digital detective.
It is.
Looking for clues.
Exactly.
Not just what went wrong.
Right.
But why.
It's a valuable skill in our increasingly software-driven world.
Right.
And it all starts with recognizing the importance of those non-functional requirements. Those unsung heroes that can really make or break our digital experiences.
Well said.
Thank you.
So, to all our fellow deep divers out there,
yes,
keep those NFRs in mind. Absolutely.
Stay curious.
And keep exploring this fascinating world.
It is fascinating.
Of software development.
It is.
Until next time.
See you then.
Dive deep and stay informed.